What is the biggest red flag you had overlooked because the ex was good? He wasn't over his ex. Turns out he was so not over her that they hadn't even broken up and he never planned to. Pathological liar on the streets. Demon in the sheets. Doesn't appear to register a word I say. And sometimes just interrupts me mid-sentence with a remark of his own. It's almost like I'm white noise sometimes. I see you've gone with the present tense. Jumped out of a moving car because she didn't like a restaurant in the direction we were headed. Dirtiest, most adventurous sex I ever had. Crazy in the head, crazy in the bed. A lot of people will hit you with the I don't care or you choose when you ask about where to eat. He constantly wanted to do everything with me for me. Don't go to the post office by yourself. I'll drive you. Don't get yourself dinner. I'll take you and we'll go together. Don't do X. I'll do it. And then he'd get upset when I had already gone, didn't wait for his ass to wake up. He worked nights and often slept through a million calls, had done whatever by myself or with friends, and claimed that he was worried about me. He found a new squeeze and dumped me a month or so into this. But in hindsight he was really controlling, and that was quite likely the start of something not so great. She was insanely jealous and we'd fight all the time. But the ex was amazing. I managed to break up with her. Met her to get some things back. She asked to get her drinks. Few hours later and the most intense sex ever. I ended up with her for another year. I did finally end it. She never used her turn signal while driving. After 2 months of sleeping together I knew absolutely nothing personal about this guy. He was tall, very muscular, covered in tattoos, and drove a really expensive truck. I never saw his wallet. Only carried cash. His tattoos meant nothing. Grew up somewhere on a farm. I had some My Little Ponies from my childhood on my dresser and he told me that these were cute horses and did they have sentimental value. He had no idea what they were. That happened frequently with pop culture type conversations. He didn't watch TV, movies, didn't read. I have no idea what his hobbies were. Never knew where he lived. He always came over to my place. Oh. And he used my hydrogen peroxide like mouthwash. Which I always thought was super weird. Fully convinced he was a hitman. Few times he showed up with huge bruises on his body and wouldn't tell me how he got them. I finally told him I was ready for something more and I knew he wasn't and we respectfully parted ways. 1. Owns a house with her ex-husband that she's still friendly with. Also I was never invited over. 2. Nieces and nephews live with her. But brother doesn't regularly. 3. Wanted to get a job with her ex. Yeah. She got that job and is back with him. Shocked. I tell you. Welp. He was totally convinced that only when it's a full moon he could really climax. Like a werewolf. Strong vibes of overestimated masculinity I ignored to get a very useful formed dick. Talking about her ex-boyfriend non-stop and how much he missed him. Also his name was Dolphin. Everyone told me she was paranoid but she was a ballerina and her body was perfect. Her paranoia was strange in that she thought everyone was talking about her behind her back and lo and behold everyone was talking about her behind her back. Everyone was talking about how paranoid she was. In my defense I told everyone that she technically wasn't paranoid if what she thought was happening was actually happening. Then she became paranoid of me sleeping around on her. Had to roll. Game playing. She was beautiful, but enjoyed toying with others. Example. After a date I asked her back to mine again and this time she said no. Totally fine. I respect that. She doesn't return my call next day. No problem. Next week I hear from her friend that she was disappointed I didn't try harder to persuade her that night. When we did eventually speak she said she wanted to be called at least 5 times before she replies. I just wasn't prepared to play that bullshit. Christ, I'm glad that never went any further. Religious quotes all over their social media. Peas. 1 cross equals religious. They pronounced every G as a hard G. She said I just know I'm going to accidentally get pregnant with red-headed twins. Lol. I'm a redhead. I ignored the red flag for a while but she kept saying it. She was close family. Also being sexually assaulted by the same person. The Disney themed bedroom. It the first girl I dated after coming out as a lesbian. She hit me with I'm still really close with my ex. Didn't like that at all. Sex was amazing. She's one of the few people to have ever given me an orgasm. We were also really kinky together. A couple weeks into dating her ex starts sending me pictures of them having sex. She hated me and I barely knew her. So yeah, that's how I became a lesbian cuck, I guess. Broke up a couple weeks later. You aren't a cuck if you don't put up with it after finding out. She was manic depressive, bipolar, and on and off alcoholic. She was wonderful when she'd stay on her meds and not drink, but she was a wild horny monster when she didn't. Good times for all. She admitted that she would start fights intentionally because she liked make-up sex. Just general emotional manipulation across the board. The big red flag over her bed. The white circle. And a backwards Buddhism symbol in the center. Didn't return the shopping cart to the rack. My wife and I are having huge problems, right, and sometimes it is hard to articulate why I just can't deal with her personality. But yesterday we were in Target together and she found some foam papery stuff sitting somewhere in the store, not for sale. She started ripping it into tiny pieces all over the floor. I asked her to stop and she made a comment about how I'm not her boss. And although we have been together well over a decade, it was like my irritation with her all suddenly made perfect sense. She is absolutely inconsiderate of people most of the time and it's disturbing to me. If I were to point that out to her, she would definitely twist it into making me look like a nag who is just finding things to pick on her about and how she can't do anything right and is such a failure. And also that I act like I'm better than everyone. Sigh. Sorry. I'm having a rough time and this was kind of cathartic to type out because she constantly makes me feel like I'm crazy. She was neurotic and probably bipolar. She would make up things in her mind and then they would become facts to her. Which was insane. Example. We once watched her friend's daughter for a few hours. We both were around 22 or so. The daughter was like 5. I was trying to be engaging and let the little girl have fun, just honestly regular playing. Well, later that night I was accused of paying too much attention to the little girl we were watching and she thought letting the girl have piggyback rides was over the top. She actually felt I was inappropriate. Which was totally inaccurate. She was batshit crazy. Edit. I would like to add something since this has blown up. I honestly have no idea if she was neurotic or bipolar. I have no authority to say either. That was probably irresponsible of me. I just know how she acted and how I felt. I should add also that yes, in fact, the other part was true as well. When you're 22, sex is everything. And let me assure you, she was still the most amazing partner I've ever had. Insecurities and control issues. Sex kept that relationship alive. In various forms. For almost 10 years. Alcoholism. She took my keys so I couldn't drive and it was a blizzard so I wasn't going to try walking 15 miles home. But yeah. I spent 4 days as a mostly willing sex slave. Fellas. Don't put your dick in crazy. All her boyfriends were crazy and she just got out of prison for assaulting her ex. I was very clear that we'll only ever be FWB. And it's worked out pretty great so far. It's pretty infrequent. Like 4 or so times a year. When she's between boyfriends. Unemployed 33-year-old man who lived, and still does, in his mom's basement and had no plans on leaving or bettering himself in any way, shape, or form. Dude had a missing tooth from military accident. Bazooka shell. Nazca flags. And super soft skin. One of these things is not like the others. Best 3 months at sex ever, but he had no problems ghosting me until he was ready to shag again. I finally had enough of being a booty call and found a very nice guy. He got really apologetic about it and decided that I was girlfriend material when he found out. Too little too late. But damn. The shagging that man laid down on me was masterful. I caught her doing meth in my bathroom. Turns out she was a tweaker. She was really hot though. And really into me. And kept putting on all kinds of moves on me and I was drunk. Eventually I caved. No ragets. She bragged about humiliating a stripper until he cried. And also humiliating a young German boy by promising him sex if he masturbated in front of her and her friends. Then making fun of him. Until he cried. After a few days I wanted to go home and take a shower. Just chill by myself. She insisted I could stay and shower there. Said I didn't have any clean underwear with me. She pulls out a pair of her ex's. This is just a very generic one but I had not learned this lesson before. Constantly talked shit about her ex. Never a good sign. She gave me COVID and I got really sick. And then ghosted me. Her mom and dad had been married 16 times between them. 7/9 split. Respectively. He was a narcissist. Horrible boyfriend material. But FCK the ex was great. So great. Was it really that great or did he just starve you for affection? Her family was a bit of a mess. So that unhealthy environment, especially her dad who put down her confidence, would eventually project onto our relationship and had messed up her mind. For example, holding her hand and interlocking my fingers with hers. Made her think I was horny wanting sex. I couldn't be casual intimate with her with anything and it was always a something related to sex and kinks. Hard to choose the biggest. But it's between having her dumbest friends go through my FB friends list looking for women I called or potentially cheated on her with or having someone hack my FB looking to see what girls' pictures I liked or overall immaturity. I was 23 at the time. She was 19. Edit. Incest is really a thing. He constant told me that if I were to get pregnant, he would beat the baby out of me. And he said he had no problem doing it even if it killed me. Joke's on him. I can't get pregnant even if I wanted to. Or that he claimed to be a gamer guy, but refused to play Minecraft even on survival. Her drinking. But to be fair, she used to be a stripper down in Myrtle Beach. Can you blame me? She was a Nazi. It was literally a red flag. With a swastika. Edit. Since there is flag collector in the comments below and FCK that guy. I want to state I didn't know she was a Nazi until the deed was done. Crazy. Crazy family. Extreme. She wouldn't listen when I told her enough. Sort of in bed out of bed red flag. As a man close to 40 sex is way higher quality and much less quantity usually. Add to it kids. A career and the drastic increase in the need for sleep at this age and sleep seems more appetizing than a romp at bedtime more often. Went on a date with this woman and things were fun. We end up going back to mine and FCK like high schoolers. We fall asleep and I wake up about 3 AM to her going down on my now very sore self. I'm kinda sore and I need to work in the morning. Let's try again in the morning nothing. She keeps going so I say it again a bit more sternly and she stops only to lay on a guilt trip of how I must not be attracted to her or I was just using her for a one night thing. We end up having sex again and then again before I go to work. If someone doesn't listen to you in bed. All the little lies about inconsequential things. He had a girlfriend. Stalking me to my home. He had deep family trauma and a lot of mental health issues that he refused to go to therapy for. Even when I told him that there's nothing wrong with going back to therapy. And that he should be in therapy. Which eventually drove me down into depression and even started getting symptoms of shared psychosis to a degree. She brought over a VHS cassette, yes. I'm that old, with a short fan film, for lack of a better word, that her family made together for her younger sister. It had a soundtrack and montages of photos of her sister. To this day I can't figure out why they made it or why she wanted me to watch it. I was 19 and he was 29. The girl he's dating now is also 19. She was 11 years old when he and I first met. I hope she's doing okay. It's weird to date teenagers past your own teenage years. Run away when you see that. I'm 29. But God. Dating a teenager sounds exhausting. Probably him not respecting me and my limitations in bed and trying to do stuff I said not to, but I was so caught up in the moment and in love I didn't really notice until it was too late how toxic he could be. Being on the run from the accuser. No. I am not joking. The sheer number of red flags spread over the sheer number of flag holders. Yep, the biggest red flag was me. Batch T crazy is my kryptonite. Somebody finally made me see it, and now I've been married to the sanest woman I know for 10 years and the normal level sex is totally worth the lack of drama and general stability in my life. She'd tell me that she had dreams of bearing my children. I already had one kid and got myself snipped. She was well aware of this. Nookie was so good I kept going back for more. Violent borderline personality disorder. That he had been divorced for 6 months. Turned out he wasn't as divorced as he said. And his wife was 6 months pregnant. But the SX. She would eat cold soup out of the can. If you don't have at least one interesting answer to this one, you've missed out on something. Super religious family. That's definitely one of the biggest red flags I can think of. Just wait until your so tells you your baby can't have the life-saving blood transfusion because she is a Jehovah's Witness. Oh man. Been there. My ex-fiancé was starting to break away from her ultra-conservative religious family. Then they all went to a big family reunion. She kind of fell off a cliff. We discovered Jesus. And our relationship ended a few months later. Daughter's name is a tramp stamp. I almost married a right-wing conservative Christian fundamentalist. 100% no inhibitions in the bedroom. Preferred McDonald's to serious restaurants. Turned out to be some sort of inferiority complex. Low expectations. Also was from a broken home. Dad left and remarried twice. Mother died of alcoholism. Wasn't really a salvageable situation since she convinced herself I was too good for her. I made it last as long as it could, then GTFO'd out of there. Dodge a bullet. In retrospect. Her writing a research paper on why monogamy isn't feasible. The SX was that good. I promise. Went home with a communist by mistake. Didn't even notice the red flag until the morning. It was on the wall. He was beginning to cook meth after learning he had lung cancer. Well, she fk'd Ted Sonareosus copyright airing. She suffered from severe depression and anxiety. Same outcome as you fluff TGC. I still miss the SX with my ex. It was the best I've ever had and have to be very careful not to use that as a measuring stick.